Hi everyone. Hi, how are you doing? Good evening. Welcome back to another Our Whiskey tasting. Thanks so much for your patience there just for a little while we just sorted out some technical issues backstage, but we're all good. And I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to taste two really incredible whiskies. You'll have seen them in your tasting packs if you got them through your doors. As always, please say hi so I don't feel like I'm just talking to my laptop and the cat. Isla is here. She's running around like a crazy thing. So please say hello. I've seen some names come up already, having a lovely chat between each other. So please let me know if you're here. Let me know maybe what you've been tasting recently that you absolutely love. Any recommendations you've got for the group. We love to hear your personal recommendations, particularly any ryes that you've tasted, because as you'll have seen, we've got two rye whiskies in your tasting packs tonight. So this is your pack you would have had through the door, your lovely OurWhisky tasting pack, which opens up like this. And inside you would have had a Lot 40 dark oak, and that's probably back to front because I mirrored my camera, of course. Tabby, you're very good at telling me if it's back to front or not, so please let me know. And you'll also have Oxford rye whiskies Easy Ryder as well, and you would have also had your two tasting note cards. I'm trying to make it too reflective, which you would have seen like the colours at the top here are very similar because they are very similar. Oh, they are. They're the right way around. Thanks, Chris. Oh, thanks, Tabby. So you've got your lovely tasting notes, you've got your lovely whiskies, you've got your tasting pack. So we'll be cracking on with the tasting in just a minute. First of all, I've got to say a huge thank you to everyone who came down to our very first in-person event at Milroy's of Spitalfields in London. We had an amazing tasting on Monday night this week. I feel it's just like whiskey tasting all week. We had a brilliant time with Glenmorangie. They put on a fantastic cocktail for us all, and also some brilliant whiskies. We had Gillian McDonald come down, the master blender, and she talked us through the whole range from Glenmorangie 10-year-old. We had Kinter Reuben. We had Tale of the Forest, which I think was brand new to everybody. And we also had, we finished off the night with Signet, which was a lovely dram to have. If you've not tried Signet before, it's like one of my all-time favourites. So definitely try and seek that out if you can. I think probably my favourite part of the night was when two of our whiskey members, Chris Ratcliffe and Tabby Adams, both walked in around the same time, and I introduced you both, and you went, "Oh my God, we're meeting in real life," which was amazing to see because I know you guys have chatted on the YouTube videos and all of the things that we've been doing over the years. So really, really great to see that. We are going to try and do more events going forward. They are going to always be free for our whiskey members. So if you are a subscribed member, you will be able to attend any of our events for free. Just keep an eye on your inbox because we'll always email stuff out. And make sure you're following us on social media too, because that's where we'll announce it. Maybe just mark our email address as safe in your inbox just to make sure it doesn't go into your spam folders. And I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, we don't live in London, how we're missing out on these events." Don't worry, because I will be planning some for Scotland as well in the new year. And I'm also going to send out a small bottle of the Cola Old Fashioned, which is Glenmorangie Kinter Reuben, to all of our members as well. So you're not going to miss out on the cocktail we've had. It's just a wee little freebie. I'm going to put that in the post for you, so you'll get that in the next couple of weeks or so. All good. As you all know as well, we like to, God, you guys get quite a lot for your subscription, I'm realising actually. We like to give away whiskey as well every month. So just as a reward for those of you who are spreading the love of our whiskey around, I like to give away a bottle of whiskey, especially to those people who are putting some lovely pictures out on social media. So last month we tasted Fable's Linkwood 7-year-old, as well as the Cotswolds Hearts and Crafts rum cask. And thanks to all of you for putting up some amazing photos of your tasting packs, showing us what you've been enjoying. I love to see how you're enjoying the whiskies and your little unboxing videos. They're brilliant. Absolutely love them. So we give away, I'm just going to pull this up here so you can see the rules. These are the rules to win a bottle. So you have to be an active OurWhisky subscriber, post about your OurWhisky experience on your social media. The inventive, the better, really, catch my eye, and make sure you tag us at OurWhisky, otherwise I won't see it. So make sure you tag us in your pictures and videos. And our winners of last month's bottles, drum roll, everyone. Sorry, Ida's going a bit crazy, jumping around. Drum roll, she's doing her own drum roll. The first bottle goes to, and I'll let you two fight it out, who gets what. First bottle goes to Tabby at Saki Baku. Well done, Tabby. Thank you so much for all your continued support. You will win one of those 2 bottles, the Cotswolds or the Linkwood from Fable. And the second bottle goes to Andrew Marston for this awesome picture of a pumpkin, because I think we did our tasting just before Halloween. So very autumnal, very in keeping with the theme. Well done, both of you. You will get your bottles sent out to you ASAP. Tabby's right in there. Linkwood, please, immediately. Do you know what? You two are going to have to fight it out in the comments which bottles you want. Andrew, if you want the Linkwood, then fight Tabby for it. Congratulations, both of you. I am going to say, going forward, we're going to have to restrict it to 1 bottle win per month, just because it's getting quite a lot to manage. So it's 1 bottle per month going forward, but please do still keep showing your whiskies. Right, sorry, I'm moving on as quickly as possible. Last thing before we get going on the tasting and we introduce our guests, you might have noticed that there's a really big event coming up next month, a month and a day. God, this time next month, it's Christmas Eve. Oh, okay, if you have not got your Christmas presents yet and you've got a loved one who enjoys whiskey, then please think about maybe giving them a OurWhisky subscription as a gift. If you go to our website, ourwhisky.com, you can see all the different options for, just bring it up here, all the different options for gifting. You can gift 1 month or you can gift 12. It's completely up to you. So head over there and maybe consider gifting a subscription. I would really appreciate it. It would help me out a lot. And also, we love to share the love of whiskey. So the more people we have in our group, the better. Okay, that's it, I think. As always, please like and subscribe to our channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get the message out a bit more as well. And you know, the more successful this club is, the more I can gift to you guys as well. So thank you so much for your support. Okay, right, I've been waffling. Let's crack on with some whiskey. I know we're really excited, or I'm really excited about this, and there's been some real love on Twitter already today for this tasting, because we are diving right into rye whiskey. Now, I'm not I'm not unaware of the fact that today is Thanksgiving and we've decided not to celebrate the US, but instead branch out to 2 other countries celebrating rye whiskey that's from other parts of the world. So the irony is not lost on me. I didn't even think about it until I realized a couple of hours ago. But right, so I'm going to introduce our guests. Please welcome to the stage, first of all, Amy Levesque, Master Distiller at Hiram Walker that makes Lot 40. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. It's so good to have you here. And you're coming to us live from Ontario.
I am, yep, Ontario, Canada.
I'm sorry to be so British, but how's the weather?
It's actually quite nice here today. There's no snow on the ground despite it being late November in Canada, so quite nice.
Lovely, good. It's starting to really turn down here, and none of us can afford to put the heating on. So I'm hoping that we don't get any snow around here, but maybe that's just me. I'm really looking forward to trying Lot 40 Dark Oak. I'm a really big fan of Lot 40, and this is a bigger, bolder expression. So really looking forward to diving into that. Please also welcome our other guest, who is Chico Rosa, who is Master Distiller for Oxford Artisan Distillery in England. Hi, Chico.
Hi, Becky. Hi, everyone. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Really good to have you here. You feel like an OurWhisky regular. We've had you as part of the festival as well, didn't we?
Well, yeah, that's correct. So thank you very much for inviting. And as you were just talking with the viewers, I was just like feeling ashamed that I didn't subscribe to our whiskey. So I just did the subscription. So I'm looking forward for other tastings.
Thank you. Much love. Much love to you. Thank you so much. Also joining us today. Now you've had quite a few amazing whiskies come out lately, and I know we were wondering which whiskey to pop in the tasting packs, but Easy Rider I think is a really great expression. It's got so much complexity to it, and you know I'm a massive fan of all your rye whiskies, but this is a fabulous one. So really looking forward to tasting that. Right, I think we're gonna dig straight in. The very first whiskey we're going to come to is, I think we're going to kick off with Lot 40. So Chico, we'll come back to you shortly. But Amy, would you like to introduce Lot 40 Dark Oak for us?
Sure, I would, yes. Lot 40 Dark Oak is, as Becky said, a bigger, bolder version of our regular Lot 40. The difference being that it is still that 100% rye that everybody knows and loves for Canadian whiskey. It is aged in new American oak barrels. The first aging gives it that really nice, beautiful vanilla, toffee, oaky note, and then we finish it in a second new oak barrel. But this one we use number char 4 on. So char number 4, that gives it the bigger, bolder, heavier character. It also gives it a little bit more notes of brown sugar. You've got your classic dried raisin, nutmeg, clove that you get from the rye grain. It's just got a beautiful, beautiful, really nice, sugary, fruity, floral bouquet on it. Yeah, and if everybody would like to go ahead and try it, first thing you'll notice is the deep amber, really rich color on it, and that comes from the number 4 char in the barrel. The first aging is in number 2 char, so this just finishes it off really nicely. And so what you're going to see here is toffee, vanilla. That's going to be coming from the oak barrel itself. You're going to see the classic baking spices that you get with a rye whiskey, your clove, honey, raisin. You will notice the fruity and floral characters. Those come from the congeners that are caused during fermentation. And it's got a, I would say, medium length finish probably as you go ahead to taste it. So cheers, everybody. You can taste Lot 40 Dark Oak.
Cheers, everyone. Hope you enjoy. Amy, I really find, compared to some other Canadian whiskies, now we had Dave Mitten over in London just a couple of months ago. Actually, he was down in Brighton. He came to my hometown, and we tasted a few different Canadian whiskies, Canadian rye whiskies, and there's such a difference between some of the ryes which are much softer, and Lot 40, which is a very bold, what I would deem a classic rye whiskey that I think a lot of us are probably familiar with. What's the main difference between Lot 40 and other Canadian ryes?
So a lot of it that you'll see is a lot of when you see rye whiskey, sometimes it's a bit deceiving. It doesn't mean it's 100% rye. It could be a rye blend. And if it's a rye blend that has corn and wheat or any other kind of grains in it, it is going to be a lot softer. 100% rye is going to give you that sharper rye spice. Now the boldness really of Lot 40 Dark Oak in comparison to regular Lot 40 is that number 4 char.
Okay, and number 4 is a longer period of charring the barrel. Is that
Yeah,
right?
char's much deeper, so you get a lot more of that char characteristic in the barrel.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what's the maximum char level that you can go up to?
Number 4 is pretty big. I have seen it go up to number 6. I don't know if anybody's doing anything heavier than that. I don't believe we are at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Okay,
would be more a question for Dr. Don as he blends and chars takes care of whatever char cast finish that we have. So I don't see too much of that as the distiller.
sure. I want to ask you some more about your role at the distillery as well, but just to finish off on the barrel, because we had a question come in from Pesce, who says, how long is the finishing time in those number 4 casks?
In the number 4 cask, I believe it's finished within a year.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's kind of imparted that nice kind of smokiness, but it's not too overwhelming. It's not like, I mean, some kind of Ardbeg, especially Alligator, which has like a really big, intense smokiness to it as a result of that char, but it's not too overwhelming. It's just kind of like laces it with a kind of dark treacle kind of character. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it's really well balanced by the fruity and floral notes. So you get a lot of the fruity characteristics from the esters in this whiskey that we do have. Isoamyl acetate and ethyl acetate. Those are some of the compounds that are going to give you that fruity character. So when you smell it, it's got kind of that bright, fruity, sort of almost a green apple or a pear aroma to it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the original aging in the New American oak is really going to provide the balance there. So it's going to kind of tone it down with your vanilla and your toffee from the lignans in the wood. So
Nice. I think it's really well balanced. What does everyone tasting along at home think? Because I really love the balance of this whiskey. It's got like a really nice bold spiciness to it, but there's also some really delicate floral and fresh fruit kind of notes in there as well. Let me know what your tasting notes are on this. Amy, tell me a bit about the distillery, because I read, and I don't know whether this was correct or not, that it's the largest producing distillery in North America. Is that right?
it's close. We have been up there. We may have slipped down to the second right now, but we produce about 50 million liters per year. There's a picture of the distillery there. That's beautiful Hiram Walker and Sons in Windsor, Ontario. So we're right across from Detroit, Michigan. We do produce 50 million liters per year. The bulk of our production is whiskey, Canadian whiskey. We do also produce vodka, gin, and rum on site to a smaller degree as well. Some of our flagship brands are JP Weiser's Lot 40, Gooder Hammond Warts. Pike Creek is another popular one that's emerging into the market right now as well.
Mm. And what's the main difference between all the different whiskies that you make? Is it down to the grain, or is it the way you're distilling it? Because then obviously Lot 40 is also done in pot stills, which is slightly different.
Yeah, so two different things. One, the cooking recipe, the mash recipe or mash bill, and then two, the distillation parameters. So we do some mixed grain mash bills, which is more similar to a bourbon style, but predominantly with Canadian whiskey, everything is milled, cooked, fermented, distilled, and aged separately. And then our master blender takes it and blends it into the beautiful whiskey that we have at the end. For specifically this one, it is 100% rye, so you're not seeing any mixed grain mash bill. It's rye that goes into a fermenter. And then distillation, we've got a couple different options. So we have column stills, we have pot stills. Those are two of our pot stills right there. All of our pot stills are copper. That lends to also the flavor of the whiskey, which is really important as well. With the pot distillation, so this one in particular goes through column and pot distillation. So the column distillation is what's going to give us the base, the high wines. Then we're going to take those and charge it into a pot still. What we're doing in the pot still is we're cutting out the things that we don't want. So sometimes in a whiskey, you get the really grassy notes, green, ripe. Those are acetaldehydes and they come out in the heads. So with this whiskey, where you'll see a little bit of a lack of that is it's come out in the heads. Likewise in the tails where you get almost that soapy character, your ethyl laurate, ethyl palmitate, those we can strip out as well. So the shaping of the whiskey and the finishing of the character before it goes into aging and maturation, that comes from what we do during distillation. So this one, like I mentioned, is once through a column and then a pot still. We also have an extractive distillation unit that we use for more neutral Canadian whiskeys. That would be more of a corn-based whiskey. Wheat as well. We have some pot stills that we run wheat on and barley.
You are like a multifunctional distillery. It's amazing the variety that you're creating.
Yes, we do. We do have a lot of different. We've got hybrid stills, regular pot stills. We've got column, extractive, flavoring stills, steeping stills. So yes, we've really got a lot. Of depth in what we can do. We've also recently installed a research and development small pilot fermenter, so we can really do some craft small batch whiskeys as well. Similar to the beer market, we're seeing a lot of whiskey drinkers are looking for more of a craft small batch distillation right now, which hasn't been our traditional. Doing 50 million liters a year, most of our runs are large. The equipment is big, so we're trying to be a little bit more versatile and have small batch plus our big production runs.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, to have yourself on here with Lot 40 versus what Chico is going to bring to the table in a moment with Oxford is completely different in terms of scale and production. And I just think it's so fascinating to see the difference in your approach to making rye whiskey, but still just making whiskey with just so much flavor, which is incredible. There's a few questions that are coming in. One is predominantly around, so this is 100% rye whiskey. Is it malted rye, or are you adding enzymes to that?
This one in particular is not a malted rye. We do use some malts in some scenarios here. That gives us the endogenous enzyme count. Exogenous enzymes are enzymes that are manufactured in facilities, but still natural derivatives. So that's what we use in the case of this whiskey because we don't use malted grain. We'll use an alpha amylase and a glucoamylase as well as a beta amylase in this one.
Now, for anyone watching who is asking questions about what is an alpha amylase or a glucoamylase, now, Amy, you have a background in chemical production and engineering, hence knowing so much about all of these different elements as well. But also we know Dr. Don Livermore, who is master blender, is loves all of this stuff too. What drove you to pursue science as a career, and how did you then come into whiskey?
So my career actually started a little bit differently. I started in the petrochemical industry, so fractionation of petrochemicals, gases, things like that. I happened to meet the plant manager here on a whim, and he said, beverage alcohol is a little more exciting than petrochemical, and I agreed with him, so I made the move here. Funnily, it is the same basic principle. Everything is pressure and temperature for me and boiling points. So then I've been at the distillery for just over 8 years. I'm actually going back to school online in Scotland right now, doing my master's in brewing and distilling as well. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yes,
That's fantastic. Is that with Harriet Watt?
it is. Yes.
Fabulous. Congrats. How are you finding doing the masters?
Very good. Yeah, it's very good. A lot of it is, stuff that I use in my day-to-day life, so it's nice, but broadening my skills a little bit because of a lot of it is based on Scotch or Irish whiskey, so a little bit of a different process from what we do here. So it's exciting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's I suppose when you come from that kind of chemical engineering background to actually move into considering flavor as your
Yes.
parameter as well, it's slightly different. And I mean, obviously for people watching at home who are obviously, we come to whiskey for the flavor, but it's really, I find, fascinating to hear somebody like yourself talking about it from a science perspective and to attach all of those little notes that we're tasting to the chemicals that are actually within the whiskey itself.
Yes, yes, it's once you find out, what congeners give, and a congener is basically just a compound in the whiskey, like a isoamyl acetate or ethyl acetate or something like that, that gives a distinct flavor. And if we know the customer likes that flavor, we can figure out what the boiling point is, how to isolate it, how to increase it, how to cut it out if it's something that we don't want, like an off flavor. So although it's part art, part science.
Exactly, but that's exactly what whiskey is, isn't it? And part magic too, because
Yes,
some of we don't know how it turns out the way it does. It just happens, which is amazing.
exactly.
I'm gonna bring Chico back in because I'm sure you two have probably got a lot of things to talk about. I don't know whether Chico, when you were listening to that, whether you've got any questions for Amy at all, because certainly the operation at Oxford Artisan Distillery is a bit different.
Yeah, I'll probably, I guess, is like totally the opposite. I mean, we are probably like one of the smallest rye producing distilleries in the world. It's like it's just a very small place. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Lot 40 as well. And one thing that excites me is like the wood pipes that you use to transfer liquid around. Is that still? Are you still using the wood pipes?
No, not anymore. They've either been replaced with copper or stainless steel now at this point. So, yeah.
The wooden pipes.
Yeah, I remember like to see like in the like somewhere like that wooden pipes used to be used to transfer liquid around, and I found that fascinating. I
Yeah,
didn't.
it's interesting. A lot of distilleries still, even to this day, use wood fermentation vessels and wooden stills, even some places in South America and things like that. So wood pipes were a thing at one point in some distilleries, but yeah, all ours have been replaced. Copper being my favorite, of course.
Nice. Thank you so much, Amy. What does everyone think of the Lot 40 dark oak? I love it. I think there's just so much to it. There's a real nice smokiness, lovely boldness, spiciness, but also you have a lovely floral note, bit of fruitiness going on as well. I'm a big fan. It's definitely one of my favourite Canadian whiskies, Lot 40. So nice to see it be given a slight twist. I know there was the cask strength edition, which came out a few years ago. Was that pre-pandemic, perhaps?
The cask strength would have been pre-pandemic. Yep. Lot 40 would have been pre-pandemic. And the one that came out, I think, during the pandemic was the Lot 40 peated quarter cask, which, if you're Scotch fan, was really, really beautiful. I loved it. Don did a great job with that one. Finished in a peated quarter cask. It just gave you that hint of Scotch, the phenolic, smoky kind of note on the nose. It was beautiful. Very hard to get still to this day. It is like sold out, but that was probably one of my favorite between that and Dark Oak of the Lot 40 revisions.
Oh, amazing. I don't think it was launched in the UK, or at least if it was on very little allocation. So I will keep an eye out for that, or maybe beg the lovely Dave Mitten to bring some over with him
Yes.
next time he comes
Yes.
to London or Brighton. I'll swap you, Dave. If you bring a sample, I'll swap you. Amy, thank you so much for that. Right, I think we're going to move on to our second whiskey now. So we are hopping back over the Atlantic to from Canada down to Oxford. And this is a distillery that I've visited once before, I think during the pandemic, wasn't it, Chico? And we actually launched the rye whiskey.
Yeah, April last year. Yeah.
Was it April last year?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
long time ago already.
But it was a long time ago. But we are now on your 7th edition of rye, which is
that's what
this
the
one's the
Ryder
7th.
is.
We're now on what, the 9th?
The
You just
9th,
launched
yes,
9th? Yeah.
and the 10th with already an horizon. Yeah, we've been quite busy in getting whiskey out of the door.
Oh. Well, I, for one, am super pleased because I love seeing all the different whiskey you're bringing out and all the experiments that you're doing. Perhaps before we dive into the whiskey, you can give us a little bit of an overview of what Oxford Artisan Distillery is, because the other thing we probably should shout about here is the fact that you've had some really big news this week. Was it this week?
Last week.
Last week.
Last week.
But,
this week. Yeah, no, last week. Yeah, sorry.
So you've now received some investment via Distill Ventures, which is an investment vehicle owned by Diageo, which is huge for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So tell us about the distillery and what it is that you're up to.
So I mean, we are. I see our project as promoting diversity and diversity in grain, diversity in farming, and also diversity in flavors. And I think both are really linked. Because we approach farming in let's say, the most natural way, we like to believe. And therefore we like to replicate nature, or how grains will grow in nature if not with the human intervention. So we take Asian varieties of rye, wheat, barley, and we let them grow with zero inputs, zero chemicals, zero intervention in the soil, and they kind of grow all mixed together. So rye growing with wheat, wheat growing with barley, everything growing together, and a lot of different varieties from each type of these grains. And we like to produce rye because rye has the ability to cross-pollinate. So because of that, it kind of an ambassador of diversity. So introducing, let's say, 10 varieties of rye in the fields, after a few years, there will be hundreds, because the genetic cross-pollination is just huge. So harvest after harvest, we'll get a different crop that will kind of, I mean, people might say that this might impact consistency, but year after year we actually get more consistent as the genetic diversity is more well spread between the fields. And the work we do in the distillery is to express that grain in a bottle. So all the process we do, every single step is optimized to allow the grain to express itself. So we also we don't filter the grain from the liquid, a bit of as lot 40, I guess, as well. And we allow the grain to naturally ferment for a little bit, and then we complement it with a commercial yeast. So the grain itself kind of like as a word to say when it comes to fermentation. And then we distill with our stills, which are quite quirky, built by people that never built stills before, which might sound like a bad idea, but actually, I mean, they're quite cool to work with. And so they will be by glass steam boiler manufacturers in UK, down in South Devon Railway manufacturing. So they're kind of like steampunk, full of rivets, with kind of a submarine look. We can see in the picture Nautilus, and we also have Nemo, where Easy Ryder, the whiskey we're taking today, also was distilling. And these stills are really good to actually showcase the grain and promote the grain character through the distillation as well. So I mean, we like to see that we are eternalizing grain in a bottle, per se. I mean, grain might go off after 5 years, 2 years if it's malted. Bread might go off in a few weeks, and beer might go off in a few years. But whiskey can keep in a bottle. So we would like to take the story of our fields, the story of what we are doing in the way we are farming, and just showcase it through the flavors you can get in a bottle.
It's amazing to hear the process that you go through, that real attention to detail of how you're farming your rye whiskey, how you're farming your whiskey, like it grows on a tree or something, like farming your grains in a way that's sustainable for the environment, and doing it in a way that's really giving back to the local environment as well. But and then making the most of that grain through your fermentation, through distilling it with the full grain. Obviously, in single malt whiskey, for instance, or even in grain whiskey in Scotland, the solids are filtered out before the liquid goes into the still. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to distill. But what you're doing is distilling with the grain in, which I think is very similar to whiskey production in the States. And on those stills, it looks like it's much easier to work with. How does that still setup work? There's a question that came in from Chris, who says, is it a pot still and then 2 column stills? How does that setup work exactly?
So we start with Nautilus pot, and it's heated with an internal steam coil. And you can imagine trying to distill in a very thick porridge, let's say, of rye and other grains inside that still, with just such a small heat contact. Basically, we burn the coils quite often, but that actually contributes with the flavor that we're gonna try after. So everything starts with the pot, and the pot goes through a kind of like a bubble cap that is not usually active when not running the columns, and then the copper pipe that goes up is jacketed, so you can also control the reflux in that pipe, and then you can choose between column distillation or pot distillation. We usually start with the stripping run, just strip all the alcohol out from the mash, and then usually on the second distillation, when we introduce the low wines in the still, the vapor reaching in alcohol can either go pot straight from the pot into the condenser, or go through the columns. So the columns are split so they could fit in a room. The spirit first goes to the bottom of the left column, and then from the top of the left column goes to the bottom of the right column. Is basically like as they would be one on top of each other.
Yeah.
So the plates in each column that allow the rectification, they are sieves, just standard simple plate with holes where the vapor can bubble through the liquid that sits in each layer. So there's a lot of contact, a lot of volume of vapor being carried through each, and interacting with also with the liquids.
Yeah. Now we're now, I think it was just last week or this week, you've just launched your 9th edition. So I keep looking off because I've got two bottles here. I'm looking at the 9th edition, which you just launched. And the difference between each edition so far, has that just solely been the cask type that you're using, or has it been? Are you distilling the rye in a different way at all between batches?
I mean, we work with 8 farms at the moment in several different places around Oxford, and we have we work with a lot of different grains: rye, wheat, barley, einkorn, and spelt. But our focus is rye, and on the rye we work with unmalted rye, and also we work with malted rye. We do several different expressions: pot distilled, column distilled, triple distilled as well, and all that to approach and to have different takes on the flavor profiles that you can get from the grain. So the difference between these Ryder and the Tony Pipe, so batch 7 and batch 9, it's on the cask maturation, because the mash bill of both whiskies are 90% muslin. So muslin is rye and wheat grown together. It's the word comes from the Latin muslin mixture, and adding to that 90% muslin, we add 10% malted barley. But the overall mash bill per se, when you break down by type of grain, is 70% rye, 20% wheat, and 10% malted barley. So on those whiskeys is just maturation. The majority of whiskeys we have been releasing have been 90% muslin and 10% malted barley, but we might expect in the future to see 100% malted rye, 100% muslin, just a bit all over the place. But the focus is going to be muslin forward whiskey.
Great, nice. Right, shall we dig into Easy Ryder? Tell us a little bit about this particular whiskey, because I'm sitting there smelling it away, and I'm absolutely enjoying myself. So talk us through Easy Ryder.
Well, don't judge my glass by the size. It's what I could get in the pocket. I'm traveling.
At least it's not a pint glass. You're fine.
So yeah, with Easy Ryder, we want to basically have a take on what the classic Oxford character is, and make it as smooth as possible, but also quite interactive. So it's at 50%. So far, we never released whiskey with the same strength. In this one, we want to go as easy as like 50, like half water, half ethanol, not really, but around that, and the whiskey really transforms with the addition of water or any other mixture. And with Easy Ryder, we want to showcase the distillery. I mean, with every single batch, we have been telling a story. So we started with the first one that you very well know, Becky, that was showcasing the distillery and the grain. Then we went to the second one, which was an ode to Oxford. So the blend was approached to give flavors of old books and remember the old libraries of Oxford. And with Easy Rider, we want to have a whiskey that will be very enjoyable, just neat, and very good in any cocktail or any way you like. So with Easy Rider, is a blend of 9 different casks. It's 8 American oak casks, different charring levels, either virgin oak or STRs. So used in wine industry, rejuvenated in this way, and also an extra cask of purple muscatel, sweet fortified wine, just to bring some more kind of like fruity or a different fruity dimension and some sweetness to the overall assemble. And I think on the nose, I mean the quality is just beautiful, but on the nose, it expresses the complexity of the grains and the complexity of the fermentation as well, with some fruity notes, some floral nuance as well, and quickly develops to what the classic Oxford character is, which is pastries, it's croissants, it's bready, it's nutty, with a lot of the creaminess that usually comes from the fermentation as well, with lactobacillus, and then it just evolves as you get through, and you get to the point that you start to feel like the distillation character as well. You start feeling the character of Nautilus in the whiskey, with some like toasty character, a bit like a burnt toast, which is more pronounced in the taste. But with the taste, it's you might start with like again fruity banana. You might start with the baked apple, with some spices, some toffee. And what I love about this whiskey is the pastry note, the croissant character, that evolved into a complex nutty dimension. So hazelnuts, walnuts, and then finished with the kind of the rye classic characteristics to like some mint, peppercorns, and the toasty character from our distillery.
It's there is so much to it. There's so much complexity, and knowing also, it's relatively young. I'm not sure how old the lot 40 is, the first maturation, Amy, but the Oxford is obviously still relatively young, but it's got so much complexity, so much depth, which comes through all the different cask types that you're using, that maslin, the grains, the mixture of grains that you're using. Is absolutely wonderful. People are loving this. Alistair has to buy both bottles, lot 40. See, I knew, I tell you, I picked some good ones. It's the spicy pecan pastry, completely agree. That's delicious. It's, yeah, amazing. Really enjoy it. how does this compare? Because I've not tasted it yet. Your latest one is the Tawny Port, right? Tawny Port pipe. So I've got this here. This is the latest edition, which is not open yet, I'm afraid. How do they compare, would you say?
So Tawny pipe is cask strength, straight from the cask into the bottle. And I'm sorry for the noise here. I don't know if you can hear, but World Cup season, so everyone is celebrating outside. So Tawny pipe shows some similarities with Easy Rider, with all the pastry, the grainy character, but takes it to a more like fruity and rich toffee dimension. So you can feel muscovado sugar. You can feel more kind of like red fruits instead of apples, and the nutty character. So basically, what I find with our new make is that when we put it in a different cask, this classic Oxford style takes different paths. So with the nutty dimension, I mean, with the Easy Rider, I mean, this is almonds and some walnuts. With the Tawny pipe can go really into hazelnuts, for example. While Easy Rider might be more kind of like white chocolates, Tawny pipe it's more dark chocolate, toffee. It's very, very rich and nourishing.
Yeah, nice.
But what I find is that actually Tawny pipe can be a bit more minty with herbal, which is a good take on the how the character of the cask impacted the whiskey in that way.
I don't think I've tried a rye whiskey matured in port before, so really looking forward to that, particularly Tawny as well. That sounds amazing. Guys, we've probably got about just over like 6 or 7 minutes left to go before the end of the session. So if you've got any questions for Amy and Chico, then pop them in the chat now so we can get around to them in good time. And there's quite a lot of questions at the end of these, and we don't often manage to answer them all. So pop them in now, and we'll try and get around to them. A question I've got for both of you, actually, to bring Amy back into the conversation here, is I don't think people maybe really understand just how difficult a grain rye is to work with, because it's very sticky and just sticks to everything. Basically, Amy, how have you found working with rye? What are the challenges and how do you overcome them?
So yes, you're right. There are a lot of challenges with rye versus wheat or corn. Couple things that come to mind. You're right. It's very sticky. That's from the beta glucans that are in the rye grain. So we use an enzyme called a beta glucanase to try and cut the viscosity a bit on that, because as it's sticky, it gelatinizes, and we find the biggest problem that we have really is heat exchangers. A lot of the time, it will leave a coating and fouling on the heat exchangers. So we have to be aware of that and cleaning that. The other thing rye grain does in fermentation is it tends to foam a lot more. So we use a natural hop extract that cuts down on foaming in our fermenters. We also drop the level a little bit versus a corn fermentation on rye, because it's foamy, it's sticky, it's an emulsifier. In the back end process, we do turn our spent grains back into animal feed. We find it really fouls up the evaporators quickly too. So we have to be sure that we have a rigorous cleaning program there.
Wow. And I expect for such a large operation as well, that is not an easy job.
No.
Chico, I know I seem to remember there being a story about you guys using rye for the first time. Am I right in like snapping an oar or it being stuck to the ceiling or something?
Yeah, I mean, we started, I mean, even smaller than we are nowadays. And let's say that the production was very manual, to the point that we would mix 10,000 liters of rye mash with ore. So I mean, it was better than gin, because as soon as you put the ore inside the mash, it will just like stay vertical, and we just like spend like 1-2 hours just like slowly mixing it, and we still do in some of the tanks, in one of our fermentation tanks. But finally, after 3 years, we got an agitator in our mash tun, so we happy days. Yeah, rye is very difficult to work with, and I guess we learned that with our own mistakes at the distillery, because the distillery started with a very low budget, and a lot of our equipment is repurposed from other industries. For example, our heat and change comes from the milk industry. Our mash tun was not mixing grain before, and our current fermenter, it was our mash tun back in the day, and before that was our hot water tank as well. So it kind of like has been being used for a lot of the stages in the process. And we got a lot of calls, like let's say Saturday morning, saying that the mash foamed over and there was just mash everywhere in the floor, with tours coming, and the distillers left to pop in like straight away. Also, pumping the mash around through the heat and change sometimes was very problematic, reaching very high pressures and exploding pumps and hoses, and just having, I mean, if you come to the distillery, you can see some scars in the building from that time, and it has been a very good learning curve to work with rye. I mean, of course, yeah, it's using enzymes, using specific temperatures and pH, and working rye with creativity allowed us to kind of like reach full production and avoid these incidents. But we love to work with it. It's amazing.
Well, it makes amazing whiskey, so I assume, you know, it really is all worth it at the end of the day, isn't it? Because it makes such beautiful whiskey. One question that came up earlier, and I can't find it now. Somebody asked, can they visit both distilleries? So, Amy, are people able to come and visit the Hiram Walker distillery and have a tour?
Yes, absolutely. We do offer public tours here. Generally, they're Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings. So we bring people through the distillery. They get to see part of the process. We have some great tour guides here that will talk about Canadian whiskey history as well. And then we usually have a tasting after.
Amazing. I will certainly be booking myself on that tour.
Excellent.
Next time I come over, I will be there with bells on. And Chico, I know obviously you've got a setup, but tell us about what visitors can expect at Oxford.
Yeah, so we run tours from Tuesday to Sunday, a few per day, and people start by learning about our grains, the way we farm, as they taste our products. I mean, we not only produce whiskey, but also vodka and gin produced from our vodka, and a few liqueurs as well. Some like just out of the radar, small batches, small limited editions, and then we move on to the distillery, where they learn more about the process and maturation. They get to taste whiskey, and then they head to the shop to pick whatever they would like to taste as well. And we also offer whiskey focused tours, which are a bit longer, where they have the chance to try all our whiskies and learn a bit more in depth what takes to produce Oxford rye whiskey. They also go into the lab where they can learn about what we do in terms of blending, our approach, and have a walk around a bit closer.
And obviously, we started off this conversation with the big news that Distill Ventures has invested in Oxford Artisan Distillery, which is amazing. What's going to change, if anything? What's going to happen now? Have you got any big plans ahead? What can we expect from the distillery?
We do have big plans ahead. We're really excited with the news, and for us so far we've been constrained a bit producing our whiskey because our stills also produce our vodka and our gin, and now we want to focus more into whiskey. We are increasing production on site, so we're expanding a little bit. I mean, we are located pretty much in Oxford city center, just on top of South Park, and I like to think about the distillery as a farm in the city, although there is not really space to grow. So we're just putting more equipment in. We are bringing wooden fermenters as we used to have back in the first years. Now, because we had to increase production for the past 2 years, we started to ferment in our mash tun, as I referred to. So we are bringing the wooden fermenters. We are investing a bit in equipment that allow us to produce with more safety and with better quality. We're expanding fermentation times so we can allow the grain to showcase itself through natural wild fermentation. Of course, without fermentation, I mean, with the mash, a lot of the yeast and bacteria, they just die. But then with some things that we do in the distillery, we allow it to get back in. That was part of my master's projects, selecting wild yeast for rye whiskey production, and
Well, that's really exciting.
Yeah,
in itself, exploring wild yeast and impact on rye fermentation for sure. That's really exciting.
Yeah, no, that was how I got to know the projects. I was studying in Scotland, and the distillery was just starting, so I came down to Oxford and was just like getting samples from everywhere around Oxford to produce rye whiskey, and got a few good ones. They're still in the freezer, so maybe sometime in the future we can introduce them in some special batches. Yeast like from the founder and master distiller Moustache, giving tropical flavors and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
I think I don't know about anyone watching. I think that's a little bit. I don't know how much I'd like to taste the whiskey that's like made from yeast from the man's mustache.
Well, I'll tell you, it was so good. It was like so fruity, tropical, pineapple, passion fruits forward. I loved it.
Amy, have you experimented with various yeasts? Have you grown any yourself to put into your whiskey or anything like that?
No, we are using commercial yeast right now. We did used to manufacture our own yeast on site, of which we do have some of the old samples lyophilized, so freeze dried. So do we have the capability to bring those back in the future? Yes. But right now we are using commercial yeast, and yeast, as we all know, is very important in changing the flavor profile, actually. So it's hard once you're tied to a form of yeast with quality control to change that. Although I do think it's very cool what you're doing there with your grain and your yeast. I love it.
It's exciting.
It is.
How much experimentation can we expect to see from Lot 40 going forward, or from any of the other brands you make at Hiram Walker?
Of all the other brands, yeah, Dr. Don's got some very exciting things in his wheelhouse, as always. I won't let the secrets up right now, but I will say that Canadian whiskey is, of course, always evolving, as are we at Hiram Walker here. So definitely there's going to be some new exciting things coming out in the future. I can say that. Just some really cool ideas with different casks and there are different yeasts still that we can use here, and different distillation practices too. So
cool. Well, hopefully some of those expressions will make it over to the UK. We don't have a huge amount of Canadian whiskey here. I wish we had more, but yeah, it'd be lovely to see what more what other experiments you have going on at Hiram Walker. What just to cover off a couple of the questions, because I know we started late, so we'll finish a little bit late as well. Spirit Bomb asks, what is your favorite cocktail to make with your ryes? I'm going to come to Amy first for this. What's your favorite cocktail to make with Lot 40?
Lot 40 old fashioned, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use just normal Angostura bitters, or would you use something else?
Angostura bitters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Classic. Nice. Chico?
I'm a huge fan of Sazeracs, and I think Easy Rider makes a beautiful Sazerac. But I'll have to say that the bottle that you have in front of you is actually the best Sazerac I ever tried in my life.
Ah, okay, all right, nice. I'm gonna have to get you to make one of those for me at some point, I think. Love a Sazerac. I think that's probably, unless there are any other questions, it's probably taken us to the end of our hour. So thank you so much to Amy Levesque, Master Distiller at Hiram Walker for Lot 40. And thanks so much to Chico Rosa, also Master Distiller for Oxford Artisan Distillery. Love Easy Rider, love Lot 40 Dark Oak. They've both been amazing whiskies, and it's been such a treat to explore the world of rye, particularly outside of the US, because I think we can kind of get a little bit bogged down by thinking that rye whiskey is kind of an American product, but there's so much variety to it. And I think you'll agree with the ones we've tasted today. They are vastly different, even though they're made from the same grain. So hope you've enjoyed. Do pick up a bottle of each if you have enjoyed them. And don't forget as well to buy a whiskey subscription for your mates, your mum, your dad, your grandma for Christmas. They'll love it, promise. And please join me in thanking Amy and Chico for being with us today. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you very much, Becky.
Thank you.
I hope everyone enjoyed.
Cheers. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.